I was looking at a job with some students. They were saying, "Wow, I want to apply for some jobs." So I went out the USAA site, and the day we went up, they had 7 accounting and finance jobs, and they had 92 decision scientist jobs. So that's where the growth is.
So
Decision scientist is essentially
yeah,
mathematicians that know computer programming. I mean, that's essentially what it is. So statisticians that can get data. So I'm encouraging more and more students to at least double major in management science and finance rather than just a finance degree.
What I do when I go to sleep every night. Are you saving a life? What I do when I wake up first sight. Are you saving a life? What I do when I battle every single day. Are you saving a life? What I do when the North Shore Hawaii. Are you saving a life? Now my flow is flowing, life is ever knowing, I'm forever growing. Obstacles are slowing me from being me. My mind can see potential in me, failing publicly, still not.
podcast and stuff. We just started. Who am I? Who am I here with today?
I'm Ron Sweet, professor at UTSA.
Who is Ron Sweet?
Well, I am a finance person, so I worked at USA for 23 years, retired in 2009 at 46, so I could teach part-time and travel a lot, so I travel a lot. Started a charity in Costa Rica to do some micro-lending. So right now it's teaching, biking. I cycle every day, and then working in Costa Rica. That's pretty much what I'm doing now.
So I remember being in your class, and I feel like, hopefully I got this story in my head correct, but I feel like you started off like in music, right?
I have an undergraduate degree in music. I was going to do music education, and then took the conducting class, and which is a really important class for music education. But the conducting professors, they're in a bad mood every day. They weren't teaching. It was a horrible class, and I decided to change majors. That changed the accounting based on one conversation with one person who just said, "Don't do accounting because it's too hard." So that was my entire decision process. But I wasn't going to leave UT. I was undergraduate at UT Austin. I wasn't going to leave without something in music. I had 100 and something hours already. And music theory was the fastest approach to get a degree in music. And I was the only music theory major. In fact, it was strange. Professors were saying, "Why in the world would you do music theory like it was a wasted degree or something?" But I was doing it for the education, not for the vocation. So I finished it.
Because obviously I know where you are now, but what makes you even like want to get into the music in the beginning?
I was in high school band, played trumpet.
Was that here in Texas?
In Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, up in Austin. I love music and I love teaching. I wasn't a great musician, but I was good enough to get by. And so I thought music education, because I love education so much. And boy, I love my music classes. They were the best. I hit UT Austin perfectly. They had some of the best, they probably still do now, but they had some of the best professors. A couple of them have passed away. But 2 of the professors I had I really loved, they're still there. And I've gone back and visited them. So it's just the concept of composition and theory and counterpoint, all those kind of things. That turned me on. I wanted to be able to, if I couldn't perform it, because I wasn't good enough to be a performance major, couldn't perform, I at least wanted to be involved in music and teaching it as much as I could.
So then there, you said you mentioned accounting after that. So how did you stumble onto that?
French horn player, I knew. I told her I was trying to figure out a degree. I had no idea. I was picking degrees randomly, computer science, accounting. And as soon as I said accounting, she said, "Oh, my roommate's an accounting major. Don't do that. She says it's really hard." So I said, "Well, okay, I'll do that then."
You just like challenges?
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the accounting classes. I liked the thought process, very logical. Did really well in the classes. And I did a semester of accounting and business, and then I did a semester of music. Well, the music classes were a whole lot harder than the business classes, but I enjoyed the music classes more.
Yeah.
So I had like a really easy semester of accounting and finance and marketing, all this kind of stuff. And I do a semester of counterpoint and theory and ear training. So I enjoyed the music, but it was so difficult. So it was a nice switch going between the 2 of those. But accounting, I picked accounting entirely randomly. Even when I interviewed for jobs, I really had no clue what an accountant was. I was completely, even just knowing debits and credits, I still didn't know what an accountant did. I didn't figure that out until my first job. So I saw what an accountant actually did.
That reminds me of I feel like because you end up teaching your classes, I assume you still do like teach them like project based, right? Kind of.
Paper and yeah, no multiple choice paper projects.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, you would always say the difference between like, especially when you're trying to do these certifications, real world practicality stuff
Yeah.
versus like this textbook stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it sounds like the accounting thing right there, like what you just mentioned.
Yeah, I don't. I only lasted in accounting for 2 years. I didn't get out of accounting because I didn't like it, because I was enjoying it. But a job came up at USA in finance. I didn't want it, but I was just showing off for the CFO. So I told him I was interested in this job, and I wasn't at all. And he went back and called the head of the department, and I was working there 2 weeks later. And then I ended up loving finance a whole lot more than accounting, because finance, accounting measures decisions. Finance actually makes decisions, and I figured out I wanted to be in the middle, the important stuff. And I really had no clue. I took, one finance class undergraduate, and I enjoyed it, but it never like, oh, I got to switch majors to this. At that point, I was too far along. But yeah, finance is more a profession. I think artificial intelligence is going to replace most of accounting and a lot of finance.
Because it's rule based, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's
Accounting
rule
especially.
based, and it shouldn't. And there's not a lot of critical thinking going on in a lot of decisions. When accounting does decision based critical thinking, they're usually doing accounting, and they're usually doing finance. They're not doing accounting. So management accounting is really finance for accountants. So when accountants get into decision making, they start doing finance. So I figured I might as well learn finance, and I wanted to change I want to be at a company that's a good company, and I want to radically change the company. Like I tell my students, go out there and radically change the world. It's hard to do that in accounting. It's really easy to do that in finance. Finance drives so many decisions. So it was a better choice.
You mentioned that AI had taken over, like, and you said for both, not just accounting, but for the finance aspect. Where would that leave? I guess, would it just not be any room for humans? Would there be still some creative thing? Would all the technical analysis guys be the only ones left, like to work?
Well, even the fundamental, a lot of hedge funds are moving to a lot of AI. It's data mining. It's looking for things, how do markets react when this happens, and computers can learn that pretty quickly. I'm not sure we'll completely replace finance. We might completely replace accounting. But I am encouraging students, if they do finance, to broaden out into computer software programs, a lot more statistics, a lot more economics, because they need to be able to. They have to know. I mean, we're in the data right now. They got to know where the data is, how to get access to it, and then when they get it, how they can manipulate it. So they need Python and SQL and those kind of things. And then once they get it and manipulate it, what do they do with it? So they need the statistics and economics. I was looking at a job with some students. They were saying, wow, I want to apply for some jobs. So I went out the USAA site. And the day we went up, they had 7 accounting and finance jobs, and they had 92 decision scientist jobs. So that's where the growth is. Decision scientist is essentially mathematicians that know computer programming. I mean, that's essentially what it is. So statisticians that can get data. So I'm encouraging more and more students to at least double major in management science and finance rather than just a finance degree.
So for that decision scientist field, you would need is that like a stats thing, or you need programming knowledge as well too, or math knowledge?
Well, a lot of my students are doing extremely well. They learned all their computer programming on their own using Coursera and a lot of these online sources. Because computer programming, it's all there online. You can teach yourself pretty well. So they didn't take that many computer science classes, but yet their computer science skills are really strong. They took a lot of statistics, a lot of econometrics data courses. Math is king. I don't think mathematicians are going to have too much trouble. You look at blockchains and cryptocurrencies; those are all mathematicians and programmers. I mean, that's what it is. I heard one guy on a blog, on a podcast, say all the great companies going forward are going to be software companies. And I think that's true. Ford, GM, Amazon. I mean, these are all software companies. That's what drives a company. Uber, it's the software that drives the company. Hardware is becoming a commodity. So firms that do nothing produce hardware, I think they're going to be commoditized, and it's going to be the great thinkers who can understand how to take their great ideas and put it into an application of some kind. I think that's what's going to drive markets going forward, and jobs too. So yeah, I think almost everyone's going to have to become a computer programmer in
Yeah.
every business degree.
That reminds me of what you were just saying about it. I saw a meme the other day, and it was pretty much saying like the best at whatever industry owns nothing. You know, whether it was Uber, Airbnb. I think they put Facebook in maybe a media platform, even though they don't, because other people create on it. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was just like, you know, and then and then they put of course the Bitcoin. They put Bitcoin in there as like the bank with no cash or something like that. You know.
yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like everything's just becoming decentralized, or like, and like you said, just no hardware. Or at the same time, you can almost argue they're all like variations on the sharing economy. You know.
Yeah.
I guess I never thought of Facebook as one, but I guess there's a share button right there, right?
Well, they got people creating videos for them for free.
Yeah,
posting
exactly.
stuff for free. Yeah, I mean
they do the work to keep you there, and then they put the ads for them.
I do think the biggest risk is the size of the biggest players. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I tell my students, be unconventional, radically change things. And there's people out there doing, as this one podcast said, the most important stuff happening in the United States is happening on the weekends. It's all those Facebook and Google programmers, and they go home on the weekend and work on the important stuff, and then they come back at Google and Facebook or Apple, whoever, and then they're doing some marketing campaign or something.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that has to be done next year or two. But the stuff that needs to be done next 10 years, they're doing that in their garages on the weekend. The problem is those great thinkers, they build something that's worth $50, $100 million, and Google and Facebook are buying them out. And that I don't like. We need people to be. I want Google and Facebook to be scared to death of newcomers coming in. Instead, they're just buying these newcomers.
Facebook has been really good at buying like pretty much all its potential comp. With the only one being, I guess Snapchat. That was the only one that said no. And you know, without going into that thing, like, because I've messed with those platforms a lot.
Yeah.
Facebook, because they own Instagram, they pretty much had Instagram copy everything that was unique about Snapchat. And then they put it on the Facebook and Messenger platforms almost like as a troll, you know, and because there was a moment in time a year ago where I felt like Snapchat was finally taking some of the attention market.
Yeah.
But the minute that Instagram did it, it kind of like, in the beginning, everybody made fun of them. But like after a month, it kind of like reset it. Because Snapchat, I don't know if you've used it or not.
No, I don't use Snapchat.
Unlike the other social medias, they're very like public based. And but let's say I wanted to look you up on Snapchat, I can't type Ron Sweet. Like, you're just not gonna come up. I need to type your username perfect. That's the only way you're gonna come up. So usually it's been like very phone number based. Either I have your phone number or I have your username perfect. I can't just get it wrong. I get it wrong by one letter, you won't come up. So it was almost like for the people who want to do those filters and have fun, but I just want to do it for my circle of friends instead of the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But it was getting so popular that the world had to get on there. And then, you know, let's say it was Michael Jordan. He'd be like, hey, Michael, I'm Michael. Like, here's my Snapchat. Please follow me. He had to like beg people to get on there versus people search for him. But the minute Instagram that's very public, you can just type M and Michael will come up, you know? The minute they added those features, almost all the famous people kind of was like, all right, we're going back now. Like, so there's only... It's still popular, of course, and they've gotten into like sunglasses or like, you know, similar to like Google Glass. They got their own thing, I think, because they're augmented reality people.
Yeah.
And I think they're even doing some type of fashion stuff, which is whatever. But it looked like they took that very seriously. Like, okay, we can't buy Snapchat. Well, we can't let them win.
Well, that's the thing is these firms are so massive. It's really, you know, unique to China, United States. You know, Europe doesn't produce these new startup tech companies that are multi-billion. So it's really concentrated. So you got Amazon, Alibaba, Tencent, Facebook. You got these firms that are just so massive with these billions of people. And now you got the cell phone and 3 billion cell phones in the world, which is just amazing. So everything's changing, which means first time I've ever, since I've been teaching for 20 years, I've never seen things changing as fast as they are right now. It's just, and so right now I think it's really dangerous for college students. The old school ones that just showed up and the professor's going to tell me what I need to know, those students are just not going to succeed at all. I think college itself needs to be completely revamped, but it's a pretty old, stodgy enterprise. I don't know if there might come a time people like Snapchat or Facebook or Google will just not hire graduate students at all. They might hire undergraduate students, but they may not even care. You know, they may actually prefer students not be somehow corrupted with kind of the old way of thinking about things. So I don't know. It's they may start. I think those employers need to come in and dictate to schools what we need to be doing, because schools are focused right now on volume, how many students versus what actually needs to be taught.
Because each student's a producer for them.
Yeah, I don't know how it's.
Do you think that's safe though? To go back if they were to control the education system?
Well, I don't know if to control it, but they may create their own schools anyway. You know, Google has schools. I know people go, you know, to California to attend a Google school. You know, students are taking classes where they're doing multiple choice exams or reading textbooks. It's stuff that's completely disjointed from reality. I think employers are going to start saying, you know what, let's just take them from high school.
Oh, man.
And we'll give them some designations. We need to learn these programming languages. They can do that on their own. They can get the designation and get certified. We're going to teach them this industry. We'll send them, you know, I think a lot of employers, college is kind of just rooting out, not because college students learn all this stuff, but it's because college is so much work that's like, it's weeding out undisciplined people. But that's a lot of money to spend just to weed people out. There's no education going on. And that's what bothers me is their education going on in the college area. And there's been studies showing about 40-50% of students leave college no better prepared than when they left high school. And we're spending billions and millions of dollars. So I think we need to redo that. That's why in my classes, I'm trying to get students to say, okay, this is what you've been taught, but what does it actually mean? All right, take this real life thing and apply it to that. All right, so you did that. You did what you're supposed to do, but does that mean anything? Is the world going to be better off because you did that? Or are you just going through the motions of that's what you're supposed to do by a textbook? If you're not adding value, then ultimately you're not going to get paid very much. So, you know, the question I ask students, which scares them to death, but it's like, what do you know that's of any value to anybody? If you were to sit down right now, some of them in their senior year, sit down and just start typing everything you know about finance now, how long would you type? And some of them, I think, would type for like 7 minutes and they'd be done. It's like, well, why would someone pay you $80,000, $90,000 if you don't know much more than the average person on the street? So I want to scare students to kind of get, you know, you can't tie your education to a professor. You got to take ownership of your education, and you got to, you know, go to class, do all this stuff in the class, but then challenge your professors, and then try to see what does this actually mean, and then go out and try to do things on your own outside of class. And I think that's what's happening a lot with the programmers around the world. Is a lot of them are doing a lot of freelancing on their own and expanding their capabilities because they see this incredible payoff because the world's changing so rapidly. So I'm trying to figure out what that means for finance. And I do think in finance it means you can't be a finance major anymore. You've got to have you have to have 3 buckets of skills, and you've got to be strong in all 3 of them.
What were the 3 again?
Well, the finance itself, which includes accounting, the computer programming, and then the math. I think a lot would be better off if they got the math degree and then took some finance. Because as I tell students, you know, an actuary took my place at USA. I was head of equities. I was a finance person, and yet an actuary took my job. There's no way at 45, 46, I could have said, you know, I'm going to jump out of finance and go and become an actuary. That would have been impossible. Yet an actuary had no trouble jumping out of actuary and becoming a finance person. Engineers can jump between finance and engineering. So you find those fields where people, you know, so many of the professors here at UTSA are undergraduate engineer majors. They're not finance majors. So you find those degrees where, like actuary and engineering, where people
you can
start in that and they
things.
can switch to something completely radically different. And I think that's what you're going to have to do. It's hard for finance majors to switch to petroleum engineering or computer science because after 10, 15 years, you just can't learn something that new again.
Or you can, but you need time, you know? Like, and by then, the older we get, the more we get involved in the circle of life and all those other things that most people don't want to pull away from.
Well, you find your specialization, which is great, unless your specialization disappears or gets taken over by a robot. So, you know, 35 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was graduating, we didn't worry about that. Professor said, learn these things or learn those things, and that was it. I think now when you got a robot trying to take your job, you got to figure out how you can switch to something else. So I think arts and entertainment, where you are, I think people aren't going to just stop working. We're going to have more people in the entertainment field because we don't need all these people doing accounting and finance and all that kind of stuff. So that's great.
Well, I'm only there on my time. I'm still trying to figure out how do we make this a monetary thing. Not necessarily this show, but just any of it. And it's there, but I know I've been stubborn. I've been stubborn in that I really like doing what I like. And the more I do it for someone else, it's like I get less interested. And like unless the pay rate is like high enough. And like even then when it pays, like sometimes I still don't care. So I'm like, man, I probably better find some other interest. Because I notice I really like doing it for me. And it just like fades like the minute, no matter how high I'm being paid. So,
and freelance is hard because
it is.
You got to constantly be looking for work.
But I also think like it's also because I'm here. Like I have a lot of LA examples that they're all freelance and they just make it happen. Like you do have to constantly look for work, but the work's also there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the thing. If you have skills, that's why I keep pushing my finance students. What skills do you have? And a lot of them are graduating. All the skills they're going to have, they're going to get on the job. And that 4 years of college was, for a lot of them, a complete waste of time because it was all book knowledge, multiple choice type of test. And I think 30 years ago they could survive because they could come out and they learn on the job. But now, I had one Facebook post where I say, it used to be my best students and weakest students was like the Grand Canyon. Now it's like Pacific Ocean. It's so amazing. The strongest ones are so way out there. I mean, half of what they're learning, they're teaching themselves outside of class.
I was going to say, they can amplify it with the internet now, you can amplify it like tenfold, if not more.
There's so much free stuff out there, or even if they pay a few dollars, they've taken ownership of that. It's like, hey, this is my education. And they're not waiting on anyone to teach them. And then I have students on the weakest side. It's like, if I don't show them, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. I was talking to one student, showing him something in Excel. He's like, okay, now what do I do? And so I showed him, okay, now what do I do? And I finally said, I don't want to insult you or anything, but I have a lot of students that they would have figured all those last 6 steps off on their own. He said, I know, and I get better at it. I said, yeah, you got to.
At that point, it's probably the now what I do, your answer needs to, not that you should say this, but I mean, your answer is probably like something else,
Yeah, figure it out on your own. That's kind of what I was
or not even figure out your own, like something else. Because at that point, like it's probably just not like his interest. Because I hear you talking about that, the self-education, and I'm like, I feel like, I mentioned like you're probably one of the 3 teachers, probably only 3 teachers that I like really I felt had some type of impact. Even though I didn't do finance, I felt like your philosophies were like I would still pull from them, even though I didn't, like I said, I didn't do finance. But at the same time, when I'm starting to get into, you also get like my other teacher, Seabald, have signed up for his stuff at first, maybe in December. So I was gonna take it in January, but I'm like I had just got like my first keyboard, like MIDI keyboard. This in December for Christmas. I think me, my mom, and my sister, we paid $100 each to get it. Now they're maybe cheaper now, but yeah, I had to pay. There was that like 33.3% of my own gift, something like that. But I know, and it starts school January 14th around that area, and I'm like, man, it's a long time. So I just started like doing it on my own, and by the time that class is over, it's like. It helped, but what that class did, it gave me the facilities and maybe a handful of people, some that I still know today. But I taught myself almost everything by then. That's how I ended up working for him. And like now, it wasn't here when I was here, but what is that office called? With the Bloomberg terminals now?
Oh, the FSC.
Yeah. That one wasn't there. The one on the 3rd floor was there, but. That one wasn't there when I was here, but that would essentially be the same equivalent. Like they had a little office there, and I was like, "Oh, look at all this I don't have," So it was like a nice play area, but I was always doing all this other stuff on my own.
That's probably something I should say more in the first class. Is if the only reason you come to class is because I check attendance, is the only reason you're going to the FSC is because there's a project. If you're a finance major or an accounting major or marketing, and you're not like hungry. It's like, oh, this professor just showed me I got to go do this now. And I've had students do that. Then maybe I should say maybe in the wrong degree. I say some of that. I'm not quite that blunt, but I've had students where I'll show something in class and then I'll go to FSC and I can see them trying the same thing. And I'm like, wow, great. That's exactly like, professor, I'm trying to do what you did in class and I can't get it to work, but they're doing it 10 minutes after the class. That's how hungry they are. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow, I don't get to figure out how to do that. Now I can't say for me with accounting, I was like that because I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just lucky I stepped into the right career. And I think for some students, that's the way it is. They have no clue what to do and they're just hoping this is going to work out. So for some of us, that works. For me, I was music and I wanted to do music. So to me, I was doing accounting because I had to do something. So I just picked something I felt like I was, okay, I'm going to be satisfied with this. I'm going to, fall back on this. And then it actually ended up working extremely well because I moved from there to finance. And so some students, you can't change major 7 times until you find the thing you're passionate about. But some of them, man, they're so unpassionate about finance, and I think it's a fascinating field. And I look at it and they look so bored, and I'm like, boy, you're going to be bored the next 50 years of your life. And I'm an existentialist myself. Like, you only get a limited number of days. You don't come to age 65 and it's like, oh, you know what? That didn't quite work out. Let me try this again. We only get one shot at this. And at your age, that 18 to like 25, boy, that's it. That really defines it. At some point, you get to the point where it's hard to make radical changes. And I just was so fortunate that everything worked out during those times. But some is like, boy, they're so unengaged, so uninterested. I want to like grab them and shake them. It's like, man, this is like the most important 4 or 5 years of your entire life. You need to be out there just hunting around for everything you can find to figure out what you want to do, and then find something you're passionate about. And if you're working on it outside of class and without anyone pushing you to do it, go do that. And you say, I don't know if I'm making money of that. I don't care. Just do that.
I think
if it's a value to somebody, then do it, learn it. If you're passionate about it, then that's the trick.
I think I don't know if I don't want to say like this country or like our parents or something, but I think a lot of that comes from the old ways of you have to go to college, like you just have to go. And especially like where I came from, like Bronx, New York, so there's a lot of like all those stereotype stories you used to hear, just not a good neighborhood and the projects and all that. So going to college is almost like the savior,
your ticket,
at least that's what they tell you. And so I ended up going to college like because everybody's putting that in my head, but I never wanted to do it. And that's not to say, who knows what I would have done. I might have still gone, but I'm doing it more because of that. And I think finance, because it falls into the business right thing. I think business is like the safest general degree.
Right. Well, that's why I picked one of the reasons I picked accounting.
Like when I meet, I don't say it. No, I don't say it. I think maybe when I first started thinking this, I might have said it because sometimes I say stuff and don't think. But I meet someone, they tell me they general business. At least finance is a form of concentration. They tell me they general business or business administration, like some general terms like that. In my head, I just laugh. I do what you're doing right now, but in my head, because it just seems like, like the old way of like, hey, if I get a degree, life's gonna be fine, but it's not even something they're in. I almost, not that I'm in position to say this, but I almost like, look, man, if you're not learning like one of these real skills in like college, like you shouldn't go like math, like you were saying, engineering, or you're trying to be a doctor of science. Otherwise, like you need to live life, find out what it is you want.
Yeah.
And then if it requires college, then sure. Versus like, because I think a lot of us just go because it's just become this expensive rite of passage.
Well, in business, because most people only interview college students for a lot of accounting and finance jobs. You got to get your CPA, your CFA. So there's a rite of passage.
But that's a skill at least. But I think a lot of people just do the general business thing and don't do any of those things. They just get like a degree for a degree. At least accounting's a skill. And then once you have those certs, then it becomes like, oh, okay, he's good at that skill.
Yeah, and the thing nice about business is you have to pick an industry. And so I think now students can say, wow, I'm really interested in Tesla. Well, go work in that industry. Well, I can't get a job at Tesla. I'll get a job at Ford. Learn everything you can at Ford and then come to Tesla. I really like, SpaceX or whatever. I've had students say, I really love SpaceX. Well, you can't get a job there. Well, where's the best place you can go work that you can get a job that's going to help you get into the industry? So yeah, find your passion, which a lot of times the passion is not finance or accounting necessarily. The passion is that industry. I think this industry is really going to change things. Well, go learn that industry and become a major decision maker in that industry. And finance is a great way to do that. Finance does make a lot of decisions. Every firm they have to have bank accounts. They have to borrow money. They got to have capital. They got to pay their stockholders back. They have to do all the finance kind of stuff. So yeah, go do that for the next great startup. I think some of my students have had the guts to start at a startup. And I'd say, yeah, go for it. Worst thing they can do to you, they go out of business or they fire you, and that's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
You try it.
Go to another job.
They need to experiment and go. You learn. As long as you're learning something every day, you're going to take that and go somewhere else, and you'll be fine. So yeah, the students that have been the most risk taking, I think, probably going to be the better off, because I think the world's going to be this flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing, where it's going to be changing so rapidly. One of the things I always liked, which a lot of people don't, which I think gave me a huge advantage, is I love change. I loved at USA when someone said, "You're now working over here." Some people just freak out. I was like, "Oh, great, a change! I get to start doing this. I got to learn this whole new thing." And I started getting myself where I'd kind of start forcing myself to have to get a change. Like, okay, I'm going to be working here through September, and get in my mind that I got to be going somewhere else. And I try to get that in my students' mind. Some of my students, boy, right out of college, they're teaching their boss. It's like, oh, that's a terrible job. You're working for someone who's so weak in computers and all this kind of stuff that you're teaching them. That's not the right job. Your first boss should scare the life out of you. And so I tell, once you got the job figured out, you gotta switch, you gotta change. Because if you've got a job figured out and you're 26, 27, boy, you should feel almost constantly ignorant and stupid in the first 20, 30 years of your career. Because once you have something figured out in this world, you gotta be going to something new. And just say, hey, yeah, just completely radically change careers, even change companies. I've had people who their company wouldn't let them take a new job in the company, and they had to leave the company. And I say, yeah, you got it. I've recommended several students, just get out of that company. Yeah, my boss says I can't do this other job because I become indispensable. So there's no such thing as an indispensable 25-year-old. You need to switch jobs. That's terrible.
Or if you are that indispensable, then upgrade the paycheck. Yeah. Dramatically.
Have them fire your boss and you just take their job. Because, I've had some students that their boss was completely superfluous. They didn't know what their people were doing. They were just up there kind of it's like, take their job or go somewhere else. Yeah. That's why I say I'm an existentialist. It's like, man, every day's got to count. And if the days aren't counting, if you're dreading Mondays, make a radical change. Life is too short to be in a dead-end job. And a lot of my best students, actually, I worry about some of them because they're changing jobs a lot. But I used to think that was a bad thing. I now think that's actually pretty good. Switching every year and a half, 2 years.
I've heard that's like the trend for a lot of people, and almost like in car insurance, right?
It's changed very.
But I've heard because I guess staying with a company like your growth is only so much versus what if you become valuable, what someone else is willing to pay you is probably going to be greater than that yearly bonus or yearly raise you're going to get.
Well, you're paid for what you know. And so if you're not knowing new stuff, then you're cutting your future pay. So yeah, with my experience, I had a lot of forced change, and I can't think of one time where I changed a job where it wasn't the greatest thing for me. And at first I was scared of it because can I do this? Can I do this? But I tell students, if they're offering you the job and you're honest in the interview, the more scared you are, the more you should take it. It's their responsibility to know if you can do the job. That's not your job. They know the job, you don't. If they say you're qualified for the job and you're scared to death of it, that's the best job at all to take. And I've had students say, I've got 3 choices, and I say, which boss of those 3 choices scares you the most? And go work. It's no longer the firm anymore. It's the person. I've had students working for massive firms like a BlackRock or JP Morgan, and there's good bosses and horrible bosses at these firms. And the first boss, especially in the first job, that first boss is the most important thing. So pick that first job based on how intimidating that first boss is. Learn everything you can from them. Figure out how they got where they are. If they're that intimidating and they scared you to death, then they've obviously been doing the right kind of things. They know. If you're like, I wish I knew everything they knew, go work for that person. Figure out what they did. Learn everything they do, and then move on to somewhere else. Then your second job, that's when you start talking about the company. So the first job, you may be working for a really great boss in an unethical industry, an unethical company. That's okay. Figure out the job, then go find the good company you want to, you want on your resume that you're proud to work for. So I say, pick a good company first, but you got to find the good boss now.
Yeah, no, that was good stuff. I'm like in my head, I was like hearing you talk. I was like, all right, it's gonna be one of those clips. I did. This is a slight change, even though that's going really well. But I've always been curious because I've seen where you are now. But where did all this bike riding come from? Because I don't remember if you were doing it when I was here.
Well, I knew I wanted to exercise, get back in shape after. I was pretty good shape when I retired. But if you retire at 46, a huge advantage is you can do a lot of physical. People retire at 70, out of shape, overweight, and they're like, "Oh, now I got all this free time, but I can't do anything." So I was like, I want to get in shape. Well, things like running and treadmills, I was having hip problems and toe problems, and so I was bike riding. A good friend of mine, we bike ride, and she had me do this really steep hill, and I couldn't do it. And so then I started going back and see if I could do that hill. And after 3 or 4 months, I finally was able to master that hill. And then I started doing it every day. Well, then I discovered Audible books and podcasts. Well, to be a good professor, I need to be reading 15, 20 hours every week, right? I can't.
Oh, man.
I can't be teaching my students stuff. I know professors that pull out stuff from 20 years ago and they just show that again, but you can't do that anymore. So I need to be hearing what's going on in finance on a daily basis. Well, I finally figured out if I'm going to be reading 20 hours a week, I might as well be sitting on a bike. And so I put all those together. Then I started doing a bike every single day because I love to eat. So I can eat 4,000 calories a day and not gain any weight. And so it was like everything is perfectly put together.
That's the real reason, it sounds like.
Well, that's part of it, but also the podcast. We're listening to these I listen to The Economist every week. And I'm constantly seeing articles I can bring up in class and are listening to some of the best people in finance and what they're doing. And, it's not the stuff, you don't get the stuff in textbooks at all. Textbooks are, even the best textbooks that have just been published are good 10 years behind.
Can you give me, what are the podcasts I guess we should be hearing?
Well, Invest Like the Best. That's a
Invest
CFA
Like the Best?
one. Invest Like the Best. That's, I can't remember the guy's, I can't remember his name. I remember his dad's name, but I can't remember mine. And then Masters in Business, that's a Bloomberg one. There's another one, I can't remember the name of it. I don't like it as much because the interviewers get in the way too much.
Okay.
Like if they're interviewing, I remember one was interviewing William Sharp. This is the Nobel Prize winner. And he kept asking them a question, and William Sharp started talking, and he interrupted him. And William Sharp would say, "Wait, I'm not finished." And he'd finish it. And good. Because I wanted him to finish that thought.
Oh, I know. That
and I
happens.
heard too interviewing Dr. Lowe, which is one of my favorite professors. And they kept interrupting me, asking these questions because I think they thought their audience didn't know that word. So they'd say, "What does that mean?" I was like, so frustrating. So Invest Like the Best, he lets his interviewees just get a theory and just go with it. So I kind of like that. I like The Economist. I know some of my friends think it's a little too Keynesian, but I like it because they go around the entire world. And I have students from Nigeria and Taiwan, South America, obviously, Central America. I like to know, if I see a student from Nigeria, I like to know, oh, you just had this election. Oh, your new president's sick and in another country, and you got this other guy coming in. You got this. You just had this event, or what's going on in South Africa. I like knowing what's going on there, so I can somehow find an application. If a student's from Puerto Rico right now, I can bring up a Puerto Rican bond and say, okay, here's when the hurricane hit. Here's when Trump said what he said. You see those bond prices crashing. Why are they crashing? Will you buy this bond now, knowing what you know? And having a student from that country or from that territory, to me, it kind of brings. And one thing I love about UTSA is it's very international. And so just listening to The Economist every week on my bike, it gives me a little bit of a sense I see a student from that country. And I tell students, if you're in finance, you need to be reading 20 hours a week. And I see a lot of my students in their 20s gaining 40, 50 pounds. So, get on a treadmill and start listening. Make all of your reading time be exercise time as well. So don't even read stuff on paper anymore. When you're doing this podcast, right? This is a really valuable podcast. People get to hear other people's ideas. That's as good as any book you can get. And then there's a lot of books, Audible. I read Audible books as well. And that's good. And then music. 2 years ago, every summer, I pick a composer that I don't know well, and that summer I'm going to learn their music. So 2 summers ago, it was Bela Bartok. I never liked his string quartets, and I said I'm going to learn his string quartets. Now I love them, so I listen to them over and over and over again. I've done that with Mahler. I've done that with Stravinsky. I've done that with Shostakovich. Just find a composer, maybe Stravinsky's or maybe Shostakovich's string quartets, or maybe Schumann's chamber music, something like that. There's so much great music out there, but just pick one composer and just stick with his stuff or her stuff for an entire summer. I've even thought one summer I would just start like 14th century and just that music, and just for every week only or every 2 weeks only do 1 century music. And then come forward and just listening to the progression, getting from, the Baroque into the classical, into the Romantic, into the 20th century, and just hear that progression. But I got stuck on Haydn symphonies. I couldn't listen to all of them. I got too bored listening to the same thing over and over again. But one of these times I'm going to try that, just kind of, so that's what I love with the bike. I especially in the summer, because I ride so much in the summer and I go all over the country, is to have that kind of goal of, I'm going to read these books, I'm going to learn this composer, and this topic, I'm going to learn this topic. And, over a summer of 3 months, I couldn't have done that before I retired. When I was working at USA, I just didn't have that time. But now having the entire summer off, it's a wonderful thing. I haven't even scheduled what I'm going to do next summer, but it's pretty exciting to think which composer, which book, which topic am I going to learn. But I think my students can kind of do that. We probably have to shut down Facebook some of the other things, things where we're not real valuable with our time. And, so just assess in a 16-hour day, can you find an hour or two to do those kind of things?
Yeah. So
go out to Central Park with the podcast and just walk for an hour and a half. Just do that. You'll be healthier and you'll be more knowledgeable. I think that's what they need to do. I think all of us waste time unnecessarily. I've been trying to cut back Facebook as much as possible to do more valuable.
I'm trying things. So because I notice I've fallen in. I feel like I go through up and downs with it, but I think I've maybe in the last month or two I've gotten spending too much time on those platforms, and I try real hard to maintain use it for output. Put this on there, whatever, and then go. And then maybe just go through your notifications and if people contacted me, nothing else. If people contacted me, I always want to respond because I hate I hate when I was ignored. So I'm I don't want to ignore no one. But I'm just use it for those two things. But here's another thing with the Snapchat, Facebook and Instagram, they're all the same thing, right? They do a great job of their user interface, in that the minute you go there, you might want to go there for output, but the minute you go there, there's a tip of the feed. And all you got to do is this, it's there. Yeah. Snapchat, the entire feed is closed. It's just a name. So if I see Ron Sweet, unless I click it, I don't know what Ron Sweet did. But if it's just a name, it's easy to ignore. Yeah. So the attention, they're real good at just capturing your attention.
Right. Well, I think it's discipline. So it's okay, more than an hour a day on any of those platforms, email, Facebook. Why am I doing it? What's the value of it? So to me, it's my college students. I want to know what my college students are doing. If I see them doing something, I want to be able to give them congratulations, something like that. I keep it up with my high school friends and other friends, but that's my goal, is those kind of things. There's a great writer, Cam Newport. I don't know if you've heard of him. No. He's been on what do you call that? I forget. But he's done some lectures, but he's written a book called Deep Thought. He says shut them all down entirely, and I can't do that. I enjoy them; they're kind of fun.
Shut them all down entirely for the what? Just
entirely,
just
completely get out of Facebook entirely. He thinks it's destroying us, and I see it in my students. I call them. You probably heard. I call them smartphone zombies. They can't sit through a 75-minute class without checking their phones. It's
I know. Now you're looking for it. Yeah, they're. And the thing is, because I've felt that feeling too, but it's that thing, at least I can't speak from other people's perspective, but for me, I'm what notification am I looking for? It's look.
How important is it?
The hot girl never contacts me, and I never get that email here's $1 billion. So it's just you don't need to check it that,
Well, and that's why I say it's, I try and encourage my students, don't even bring your phones to class. I have some in middle class are doing like this. They're looking at their phone. I'm like, I got to sit and wait for them to put it. To me, it's really insulting to me as a professor.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, your lecture is so boring. I'm going to go do other things. I think what we're talking about is extremely important. A lot of students think, well, I can multitask. But the studies have shown that we can't. We're horrible at it. So I have my phone on airplane mode most of the day, unless I know someone's calling me or something.
Yeah.
Or anytime I'm in my car, it's on airplane mode. When I'm on my bike, that's time for listening to podcasts. So that's dedicated. And a lot of times on my bike, I like to have an hour where I just turn everything off and I'm just thinking. There's been times in a class I got this problem I'm supposed to do to a class, and I'll just shut it off and I'll think, how can I do this better so that they really see what we're trying to, and just have an hour of just nothing but thinking. And I don't think with Facebook and those kind of things, that time where the brain just goes, just imagining,
subconscious,
daydreaming kind of stuff.
Would you say that's your meditation?
Yeah, and it's great as a professor because, a professor, I'm doing the same thing every semester. They might as well just video my class and be done with it. You don't need me there. So to me, it's like, how can I do this better? And I've made changes every semester with my classes. That's what I love about college. You can experiment and do different things, try different techniques. I've done more interactive kind of things now than when you were in my classes. Just experiment, see what they're like. But to me, it's just, I love the idea of taking something really complicated and take it to someone who's never seen it before, and they go, oh yeah, I see that. That's really great. That's why I don't like blockchains and cryptocurrencies. I haven't found anyone that can explain that to me and go, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. It's still to me like this mystery, and my brain's not capturing it. But that to me is very exciting. Now it may happen with 40% of the students. The other 60 are like, I don't have a clue what he's talking about. And I have the problem, if I get so excited about the 40%, I'll leave the 60% behind. That's the biggest complaints I get from students is I can't follow him. He's going too fast. But in college, they want us to focus on the bottom 25% so that we don't have dropouts. And my desire is to take the engaged top 25%, because I'm convinced the bottom 25% are not following because they're in the wrong degree. They shouldn't even be there. And the top 25% are the ones that are going to be radically changing things anyway. That's where my impact on the world is going to be the greatest. And maybe I can scare some of those on the bottom 50% that should be in the top 25 that I just never thought about it before. So I don't, so that's my idea with, and I think the students that understand that have cut back, they control that social media pretty well, because they know that every hour in a day right now is so critically important. So if I'm spending 4 hours on Facebook just going through page after page, oh, yeah, it's interesting, they're doing that. What's the value to me or to anybody else of doing that? So I tried with Facebook is, what's the value added me getting on this platform? There's times where, mindless diversion is okay. I do it when I'm grading like 60 exams or papers. I'll go do 15 minutes of diversion every 15 papers or something. That's when you'll see my stupidest Facebook posts, is when I'm grading papers, because I just got to do something really stupid just to let my mind just relax for a few minutes. So that's fine. But to sit there and do that for 3 or 4 hours, oh man.
I always tell myself, like, if it wasn't, I still do music now, but I'm like less, in some ways, maybe I'm more serious. And in other ways, like, I'm not, because I'm like, I don't really like, I used to go harder. It used to be the only thing. So I don't know. But either way, I feel like I've always told myself, like, I'm on these platforms just for that, because it's a way to do that.
Yeah.
But I always wondered, like, if I didn't do music, like, would I have ever gotten into it? Because I guess society did, but like, yeah, I feel oftentimes like, what am I doing on here? That's why I try to limit it just to output, because it's like, there's nothing here. It's like, maybe if I went through the whole thing, like, maybe, I met this person here and like changed my life. I don't know. Maybe there probably is that thing there, but overall, it's just a lot of this. Like you were saying, like just scrolling.
Well, it's a way to keep in touch. Because I think without Facebook, there's probably a dozen or so high school friends I would have no knowledge of today. And now I'm pretty excited what they're doing. Just seeing and actually go and have lunch with them or something. My alums, I'm really, really passionate that my former students do well, and Facebook is a real way to good way to keep up with them. Some of them will switch jobs without telling me, and so the only way I know is Facebook. It's like, hey,
But it's like, did we need to know those things, or
To me, it's a nice to know.
it is nice to know, but did we need to know?
Yeah. Well, before we made it, and it was kind of a nice, you run into someone at the airport or something. So now you run them in the airport, and you're like, oh yeah, your kid just graduated from college. You already know everything about him. So it's like, hey, let's go 10 minutes for coffee because you already know everything. You see it all on Facebook. I think it's going to get worse.
Oh man.
And everybody's, the mind used to be bored and had a daydream and figured stuff out to do. Now we're not bored anymore. We sit and we just get on our phones. I think we're doing major damage to the human brain. But I tell my students there's an advantage to that. If you're in that 5 to 10% that can control that and discipline yourself, your advantage is going to be that much greater. And I think that's part of why that gap is getting wider and wider and wider. The most serious students just see the danger of those social media, and they control that. They know they got to be spending several hours learning Python or whatever they're learning, and that Facebook is essentially destroying that learning opportunity. Yeah, I don't think you learn much watching Facebook.
You don't. Like, even a lot of things I share these days, I share a lot of garbage, like cool stuff like cartoons and stuff we grew up on, but it's like I don't even watch those, but I just like, that's cool. I just share it because I know people will comment. Like, it's almost like
entertaining. Yeah,
I know people will comment, and I'm like, it's more like experimentations to see like what works with people, so that like, all right, maybe I need to try like my own form of that. And because in terms of like doing like media and stuff, I'm always like, I struggle between the stubbornness of what do I want to do or what works. And sometimes I see what works and I'm like, but that's stupid or that's corny or that's dumb. But I'm like, but that's what people want. And I like, I at least make a note of it. Even if I'm not going to do it because I'm stubborn, I at least make a note.
Yeah, how do you track eyeballs? And we're easily distracted. I wish we had more opportunity, even with my students, just sit down and let's talk something in finance. And there's some hunger in students to do that. Just sit down and talk really complex topics.
You should do because investment studies still exist, right? I see you posting there still.
Yeah.
You should do a monthly podcast with everybody, maybe. Like, do a room mic and just like...
Yeah, that's a good idea. That would be. I'm thinking about this next semester doing, we do these classes now, doing my favorite podcasts. And everybody who listens to it, so I say, okay, this podcast is really great. Everybody listen to it. Next week, we're just going to talk about it and give students a chance to just free form talking, not all this structure of, a classroom, but just open up. What does this mean? What did he say? Could you actually use that? Does that make sense? It makes sense, but is it practical and you can actually implement it? Hey, let's get on Bloomberg and let's try it. Let's see if it works, that kind of thing, and just getting students out of the classroom thought. Yeah, I have some students that really, when they graduate, they're really not sure what a finance person does. And so I think some of these podcasts of hearing people actually in the job, they hear jargon they heard in class, but they hear it. It's like, oh, he actually uses that. But boy, that's a lot different than what the professor said. I think that needs to be done more in college. The MIT approach, I don't know if you know MIT, where they have these required discussion groups. Every class, they have to have, all the students have to get together every week, and they have to talk about what they talked about in class that week. And I think that would be
forces
really
engagement.
Yeah, and they're obviously MIT. You're talking about some of the best graduate students in the world. So obviously you're gonna have some really, really good, intense conversations. But we have great students here at UTSA. This investment study has had some kind of weekly coffees and those kind of things, and I think we should do more of those kind of things. I hadn't thought about that. Did you do those and do them as a podcast? That would be interesting.
Yeah, and then you can make it public if you want, but you can just put it privately. Put it on here's a G drive for us, which I think Google's going to change G drive. But anyway, some type of free public hosting thing, and then you can download it and hear it whenever they want. And it could be something that as you archive it, students, as you keep going, like, oh, I can go to 2017 and hear what they were saying versus where we are at 2020.
Well, that was some of my vision for Facebook was, you have a Facebook that says, here's a podcast. We all watched it. Here's a and then your idea, here's a podcast of us discussing that podcast. And then you have people who, this is 3 months, 4 months later, they're posting questions. Okay, I watched that podcast. I watched y'all's podcast, but no one discussed this. and to get an actual conversation. I've had a tough time on Facebook having a group and talk a very specific thing and finding. I've done it with classes, and it just never gets very far.
I don't think I know anyone personally who has had success on a Facebook group. I think when I hear a lot of these certain entrepreneurs and certain companies, it looks like sometimes they privatize those groups, and they kind of have the users help each other. But I have not seen it firsthand work. So it seems pretty difficult to make the groups work on Facebook.
Yeah, and a real specific target topic. I've tried, like in my risk management class, it's like they have a really tough first paper, and I try to get them discussing it, and it just hasn't worked. So I tend to be the only one that posts anything. But what I wanted them to do is, as they read through this really jargon heavy stuff, they say, here's some jargon. What does it mean? And I'm hoping what they'll find is they'll see 6 terms that mean the exact same thing. It's just these 6 different banks use different terms for the exact same thing. And it takes something that really seems ambiguous and confusing and discover that it's just jargon. We just got to get the jargon. So yeah, if you see this term, it can mean any one of these 12 things. And I thought that would be really powerful, but I couldn't get. I thought, the problem part of it is procrastination. I was hoping while they were reading through, they would post their questions. Well, a lot of them waited till last week to do anything, so then it's too late. So I'm going to try to get them to
some things don't change
now. But yeah, discussion groups, I just haven't worked in the college level. There's some firms that have started some platforms using Facebook that do better on the search.
The workplace?
Yeah, it may have been something like that. There was a guy.
Because I think that's their work environment. Like, I forgot what you call those. When you sell something to a work company, and like I'm sure USAA had like their own little interportal. I think workplace is their thing. Like, obviously Facebook uses it, but I think other people can get it, and it'll be like your personal work Facebook.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. There's one that was specifically built for colleges. And it's kind of what you're talking about, that Facebook's not really good if you're trying to search something that was from 3 years ago or something. It's just, you just end up paging down constantly. Yeah. So it doesn't, and they said it doesn't, their software supposedly does a better job of organizing it so you can search some stuff a lot faster. So maybe I should experiment with that.
Yeah, maybe just a different medium might be all that it takes.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to encourage students to get on Facebook, but at least if they get on it, let's at least talk. So, I could try the MIT approach where every class, require students outside of class to get together and talk, or at least encourage them, get in teams and y'all get together, 5 or 6 of y'all, and come up with a list of questions, and then email me those questions, and we'll set up a time and we'll talk through your questions. What did we say in class that you found completely unbelievable? I've had students say, there's no way they do that in real life, professor. I was like, well, I've got 23 years of experience. Yeah, we actually used to do this. This is how we did it. We made decisions using this. Like, oh, there's no way. Well, I think that's pretty healthy for them. Yeah. Versus, Professor Sweet, I saw that in a textbook. You never talk about it. It's like, yeah, I don't think anybody uses that. Why not? It sounds really good. Yeah, I don't think it works. Here's why. I think that's an advantage for a student graduating versus another student that's all academic. And when they get an interview, they sound like they've actually been working in the field for a few months, So, yeah, I should experiment more with those couple of things.
You mentioned that. I've had a hard time, and part of it's procrastination because I just have no interest in it. I've had a hard time of depicting myself in resume form, because I think if I get into a room with someone and I'm talking on a topic that I know about, I think I usually flip them over 180. Versus, I think a proof of concept was I met I'm very into Street Fighter, the video game. I follow it less now, but I don't even play, but I'm just into that whole world these days. And I used to do some music stuff for Red Bull. Maybe I still do, depends if I stay here long enough, but probably not. But I used to do some stuff for them, and what that gave me was a gateway into their world. So that's the real thing. It pays whatever, but now I can bother people from Red Bull and they'll listen to me. So I was going to the biggest tournament in that field, and I end up meeting the esports manager there. Wow. Video game sports is what esports is. And I think they welcomed me initially because, Red Bull, whatever, right? Family, right? Yeah, but then he hears me talk. He's like, oh, you really about this stuff, And then I was able to help him do some stuff, and I was supposed to help him more, but it fell through because, what one person wants in LA, then when you get to the person in Texas, they're like, why are you here? So that fell off. But yeah, like once they heard me talk, you know, they're like, oh, okay, like you really know, you're really knowledge and well versed in this subject matter. But man, like getting that stuff on resume form has been like a pain for me.
Resumes are what classes have you taken versus what do you know, and those are two radically different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how you get a resume other than produce some works, papers, white papers, but you might not get people to read them, blogs, and yeah.
That's why, at least, like, that's what I'm trying to. So I think I've been into a lot of these things for many years, but I think, especially like as artists, we fall into the, make the perfect thing, so we don't maybe produce enough. So now I'm trying to flip the script and like, all right, let me just put a lot of, I don't want to necessarily put a lot for quantity's sake, but let me make sure that things are coming out. So at the very least, I will have like a living portfolio. I can just be like, look at that. Here's what I did. You know what I mean? And I can.
That's my composition professor at UT Austin. He said, you're gonna produce, I don't know, 8 pieces of music. There's no such thing as a writer block. You're gonna produce a piece.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you like it or not, because anything you produce undergraduate, you're not gonna like 5 years later anyway. So just put something down. Force yourself to put something down. I had another composition professor. Her approach was, well, yeah, if nothing, you don't have anything this week, that's fine. We'll do it. We'll try next week. She was like, no discipline at all. And I preferred the former. He forced us. He said, this week you're going to write a song. You have to go find a poem. You're going to write a song for piano and soprano, and I need it in 2 weeks. And the soprano will be here in 2 weeks to sing your song. It's like, oh, great. And you've got to go to the publisher and get permission to use their poem in your song. And he says, this is what you're going to do. He made it. And yeah, I think that's a good discipline. You just force yourself, because artists can get in this writer's block thing and go for 3 years like that. And never do
I
anything.
think I started off based on the whole inspiration thing, which is nice.
Yeah.
But then you never make it.
Yeah.
So now, like, I used to hear it and think it was kind of BS, but like, make some, even if you're not releasing it, make stuff all the time, because that way when the inspiration does come, you're kind of in better shape for it to make it even better, I mean, I think I got like 2 more things and then we can do the life questions and then you good. But you were talking about the bikes. You did all 50 states, right?
Yeah.
Well, most people just get into riding bikes. Like, where does that come from?
Well, a former student was in DC and I said, I was going to have lunch with him. He and his wife, they're about to have a baby, so I said, better go have lunch with them before the kids show up because they're going to be too busy. And then I thought, I haven't done a road trip in a while, so I think I'll just drive there because I didn't really want to fly. And then I thought, well, I'll throw my bike in the back and I'll just ride my bike in every state. So I hit 17 states when I did that. And I thought, well, I might as well.
So you're driving and then riding in the state, right? Because at first I thought, like, is he riding?
No, I couldn't do. Yeah, that would be impossible at my age. Yeah, I can only do like 80 to 100 miles a day.
Okay,
I'm just not,
only.
Well, there's people doing 200 something a day, but didn't really have it all that planned out. So just ride on the highway, I would see something and would stop and ride there, and I found some of the best bike routes. Yeah, it's just amazing. Some of them were planned out, like Hawaii and Alaska. I planned those out pretty well, but sometimes, like Iowa, I just looked over and I saw this little path, and I stopped. And it actually wasn't a very good path, but it ran into an incredible path. And I was going to do an hour ride, and ended up doing like a few hours because it was like this tree-lined path in the country, beautiful. Just went on forever and ever and ever.
Nice.
So yeah, it was. I think that's the best way to see the country because you get off in these back areas. And Google Maps for bikes is really bad, but in a good way. And there's no. When I did Rhode Island, I did the entire state. I crossed the entire state, and I just used my Google Maps. And boy, it had me doing stuff that were almost dangerous some places. But
does it think you're walking, or does it?
You actually put bikes, but Google Bike Maps for bikes doesn't know if you're on a road bike or a mountain bike.
Okay.
And I was on a road bike, and it would take me into there's one place that put me in this really thick sand, and my bike, I had to get off and walk. My bike, I don't even think a mountain bike would have done well there. But it said it was a bike path, and so it had me go. And there's times I've been out in the middle of nowhere on gravel on a road bike. My phone is crashing. I don't even know where I am. But to me, that's part of the adventure. So I enjoyed it. I think I don't know if I'll do it again, but I'm definitely going to be traveling around visiting places. And now I have a lot of college students that want me to come visit them to go bike riding. So I might be doing some of that.
There
I think
you
it'd
go.
be kind of fun.
Now you can start doing country tours now too, since you did USA.
Yeah. I do Costa. I got Costa Rica down. I ride a bike there, but other countries, boy, I'm a little nervous until I'm really sure how safe it is. Yeah.
For sure. And then like, I can't. Even though you've touched on it like 2 or 3 times already, but I have to ask the obvious question. Anything about any thoughts on the blockchains and the Bitcoins and all of this fun
I
stuff?
don't understand them well enough. There's certain things my mind has a mental block to, like currencies themselves. I've never been great at currencies, even though I was responsible for currencies at USA. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I can tell it's really important, especially the blockchains is really, really important. I can understand the security aspects of it and the uniqueness of it. I don't think it's going away. I think it's a little scary because more and more and more of the most important things in the world are getting concentrated in just a few hands.
Hasn't it always been like that in some ways or no?
I don't know.
Because I feel like when
if you look at market caps of firms, how much they're worth.
Yeah.
I need to do this, but look at market cap per employee. Google is a big firm, but as big as it is, it has far, far fewer employees than firms a fraction of its size. Facebook, the value of that firm, we have these massive several $100 billion firms with 20, 30,000 employees. In the past, you'd had $10,000 firms with hundreds of thousands of employees, $10 billion firms with 100,000 employees. It's pretty unique. You think about the robber barons back in, the last part of last century. In today's dollars, they were making, a few $100 million a year. We have hedge funds, and in today's dollars, 300 million. We have hedge fund managers today making $1 billion a year. And we're talking about J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller. We have people today making 3 times that, and we're not even talking about them. They're just so the concentration of wealth and power is pretty unique. And the economists have been writing about that as, does Google and Facebook have just way too much power, so much concentrated. And now it's the programmers, right? They're the most important people. They're driving everything. So it worries me because that's not a skill I have. So I'm pretty dependent on these people and what they're doing. So it worries me. Blockchains worries me because I don't have the time to really figure it out, but I can tell it's important. So it might just be passive, and someone's going to have a product that I can use that's really great because of blockchains, and so I use it. I don't like being that passive. I like to have some idea of what's going on. So, but I think I'm getting too old to learn something that radically new. It's just really tough. I'm trying to learn software programs now, and it's just really tough
Software
for me.
what?
Like Python
okay.
and some of these others and some of the more advanced Visual Basic kind of things. It's just tough. And it's tough because, when I was working 40, 50 hours a week, I could spend 20 hours a week just doing that because it's part of the job. Now I'm doing it in my spare time, and it's really, really hard to learn stuff like that. But no, I think it's important. I can't talk about cryptocurrencies and what their value should be and all that kind of stuff. But I do think they're here to stay. They're going to radically change the world. If I was Visa or MasterCard, I would be worried about this technology. And I hope they will disrupt. I do hope some of these big firms will be disruptive. And, when I was a kid, I remember when Sears got larger than Kmart, and I just thought that was incredible that there's a retailer that was larger than Kmart. I just thought there's no way there's a firm bigger than Kmart. And now Sears and Kmart combined is nothing. And now we're talking about, will Walmart survive? And Walmart's a pretty good competitor. Will they survive? But you're talking firms like Target and JCPenney and all these are like, everybody's already assuming they're not going to be here 10 years from now. And everything's going to be Amazon. Everything's going to be Google. And that's a little scary to me. So yeah, that's to me the positive side of blockchain is maybe that will be a whole new disruptive force that will just wipe out some of these firms that we now think are taking over the world. I like that. I said I like change. I want big firms. I want someone coming in and saying, hey, this is better. And everything goes to them versus right now they're just buying out those firms. I hope someone says, Yeah, you can pay me $100 million for my firm, but no, I'm going to stay with it, and we're going to take Amazon out. I'm hoping someone's going to say that and do it.
Yeah, it's been, yeah, like I feel like Snapchat was the only example I could think of, at least in that tech-ish, at least in this little pop culture tech sphere, because
Well, that's the platform thing. Is the
Yeah.
platform? You know, you start a restaurant, being good actually destroys you because you have too many customers. In platform, more customers makes you more valuable, and you get to the point where why go anywhere else than Facebook? Because it's hard to, it's hard to compete. It's tough as a monopoly. We talk about moats in finance, MOATs.
yeah,
It's almost no way for someone to come in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna be a competitor to Facebook." It's like, well, I'm not gonna get on Facebook until there's more people on Facebook. Advertisers are gonna get on there, and there's more. It's this kind of thing. There's just no way to replicate that. But I sure hope 10 years from now, someone's coming in and wiping Facebook out. It's a completely new firm. Finds some new way of doing it. Everybody's like, yeah, Facebook, that's old school. I'm on whatever now. So I hope that happens. I hope we have brand new firms.
yeah
10
they're
years
gonna
from now.
have to be a hard competitor because man, Facebook's been really good at adapting. like,
That's why I like blockchain.
others
Something like that's
haven't.
something that's a radically new technology that might completely disrupt everything else. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I'm just frustrated I can't figure it out on my own.
yeah. I
Exactly
don't know
what it is.
enough about it either. I think trying to watch certain videos from people who I guess have firms themselves who work on blockchain. I think
Yeah.
the number one thing they've said all these things about like its uses, and they're saying right now like the public is really just blinded by we can make money instead of
Yeah.
the practical use, because no one's actually using it. They're just like, hey, if I put money in here, Bitcoin will go up.
Yeah.
So they're like, once that bubble bursts where you can make money, I think then people will start to realize like, okay, it can do this and that and that and this.
Yeah, it's got to get the application down to the retail side, or at
Yeah.
least to the business side. And I think they're struggling how to monetize it other than just, and the Bitcoin going up. They actually have a business purpose. But I think the people sold on it are pretty convinced this thing is here to stay and it's going to be pretty radical. So we'll see. I mean, there's VR and AR and everything else.
Which
It's hard to-
Facebook bought one of those a few years ago.
Yeah, and I'm
I
trying to
forgot
wonder
the
what they're going
name.
to do with it. But yeah, it's
Forgot the name of it. Oculus. That was Oculus Rift. That was it. I still haven't used it, but I was in. I got very fortunate to be in a. That's his name. George Lucas's rants in San Francisco. That industrial light and sound.
Yeah, I can't
But I saw them. They have a room specifically for design and stuff, and the Oculus Rift's in the middle, and it's like 12 speakers like around it
wow.
to try to create that audible 3D experience.
Yeah.
But that was like the weird purchase that Facebook, at least, did,
yeah.
because it was like, okay, this one's
What are you
kind
going to do
of
with it? Yeah.
different versus the other things being variations of communication or social media,
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, they're out there and you can kind of use it in not as fun games, but
Well, that's the problem when you have a $500 billion company. It's hard for a founder of something new and radical to walk away from $1 billion. But Apple or Facebook buying something for $1 billion, that's nothing. So yeah, I hope ego will be part of it. Something like it's another Steve Jobs comes along and says, "I'm not selling out to anybody. We're taking over the world." I think that's
Legacy.
what it's going to take. But it's dangerous because you got that $1 billion and it could be worth zero. So it may have to be someone that already has the $1 billion. That seems what they're doing now. They start them up, they get their $100 million, and they start another one, they get their $100 million. So maybe they'll get enough hundreds of millions that they'll say, okay, the next one, I'm taking it all the way to the end. And I'm hoping that's what will happen next stage.
yeah, because I mean, like, you mentioned another one, and it just reminds me of like Bezos. He has, everyone always talks about SpaceX, but he has his own space company too.
Oh,
like
really?
it's called Blue something.
Hmm.
And because a lot of people was like, what is he doing with his money and blah blah. I'm like, he's making stuff that
Well, he's
probably ain't making money, like that space, because he has it. Like I said, I don't remember what it is, but it's another variation on like space travel, and who knows where that'll go, if it'll go, because we're gonna go to the moon on the weekends. I don't know, like,
Well, and he could disrupt something outside of his firm too. So with all the money and his innovation, I mean, we assume if he gets involved with it, something's going to happen with it just because of his personality. Same thing with Musk and everybody else. So I'm excited that side. We got people that are just they're passionate about what they're doing, and they're focused on radically changing the world rather than making money, and the money's just happening because they're having such success.
Yeah.
But they're awfully big cash.
It's funny you say it. That's been like the catch-22 because I think a lot of my artist friends were always like, you know, you have this dream of getting rich so you can just do art all day. And I'm like, when I look at the successful people like that, I'm like, man, there's that one guy, but like 9 times out of 10, like they're rich because they're doing what they want, and the money just happens to come because they're doing what they want, so they're doing it so much, you know, like, and so well, you know. And it's like it's little
you look at
catch-22.
Steve Jobs at Pixar.
Yeah.
I mean, that looked like a pretty stupid idea. I mean, but he stuck with it. He didn't have to. He probably could have gone to somewhere, but it was his passion for that he stuck with it. We need people like that. And then I hope my finance students will join people like that and then say, hey, we're gonna get this thing to work. We're gonna find out how to get your funding. We're gonna go. So yeah, it's students with the dream versus let me go find this old company and, you know, get my check and just keep doing the same thing every week. So yeah, that excites me that there's the big names today are really, really experimenting with some stuff, and they have some vision. And you just know the world 20 years from now it's going to look so radically different. It's amazing. You know, I was reading listening to one podcast. He said in 1820, if you try to explain the world of 1820 to someone born in 1700 or even in 1760, he wouldn't have had too much trouble doing it. Yeah, they had some, you know, there was some stuff coming up. But try to explain today's world to someone born in 1950 or 1960. It's like, you do what? I do all my shopping online. What do you, I mean, it's just
exponential.
I mean, they had
growth.
science fiction back there, but the science fiction was not on the information side. And, and what we're doing today is just, would be completely incomprehensible. And that was his point, is that he talks about it's the 50-year gasp that, you know, 1850, explaining 1800 to someone in 1800 wouldn't be too bad, 1900 to 1850, 1950 to 1900. But suddenly you come to 2000 to 1950 and you're talking, you know, people in 1950 probably wouldn't have too much trouble explaining 1950 to someone 1900. You know, they're starting to see machines and, you know, steam engines and those kind of things.
Is it like a 5-year gap now, maybe now?
Oh, no, it's just, and that's what gets me excited. And what is it going to look like in 20 years? But then that means what people are studying in college today is completely useless because it's going to write. So you can't be learning stuff in college. You got to be thinking, you got to be learning how to think in college. And you got to have, you know, math skills, which will probably always be helpful. And computer programming, even though, you know, those computer programs themselves may not exist in 20 years, the logic of computer programming will still be there. So learning those skills of logic and math and statistics and all that, yeah, that's the stuff you got to get. Because, boy, I can't imagine, I'm going to be so old then. Who knows? Maybe they'll have, you know, bionic body parts that can still ride my bike, but we'll see.
I remember back in the day, you mentioned that Google X. I think Google X got rebranded, but they used to be the people that used to do the impossible task. I think they even started the auto driving car, which is probably like semi-realistic, but they used to have impossible tasks, like I think the cure for death, you know, things like that. You think we're headed there?
Well, prosthetics is getting amazing. That they're actually being hooked to the brain. And Musk is now, we don't want artificial intelligence to replace humans. We want to add it to humans. So we all have these chips in our brains. So I don't know how we do at college at that point. You know, if you got, your brain has access to the internet, you know, what is the exam all going to be about?
I can't remember. He has a company working on that.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it. But also, I assume all these guys, right? Samsung and Apple. If they're not doing that, what are they doing?
Well, USA has an artificial intelligence department now. Everybody's doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you have to, because, you know, if you're at the point now, if you miss the next wave, your whole company goes under.
Yeah,
you know, driverless cars could put USAA out of business because that's, you know, 40-50% of their income. Is auto insurance.
Boom. Damn, I didn't think of that.
So in banking, they do auto loans. You know, people don't buy cars anymore. But I love it. I hope I don't have to ever buy a car again. That everything's a shared economy. And I've listened to, you know, you try to imagine, and it's just like, I don't think you can really imagine what 20 years from now is going to be. It's just going to be so radically different.
The only thing that won't be here is that we're always wrong on is the flying car. That thing never comes. It never.
Well, it may come with driverless. I think the key has been how do you control
Okay.
with
we're the
driverless
problem.
car with chips than the driverless car with with
the
chips,
minute
computer,
AI
and
cars.
radars. We don't have human interaction. Then it actually becomes possible. So yeah,
That'd be crazy. The next year, like boom, hey, they're flying now. Like what?
Well, they're experimenting in cities like New York with driverless or flying vehicles. Your first person to die is gonna, kind of kill that market.
And soothe people.
Yeah, the insurance side of it, but I mean that's been part of it. Is you can't control when you have so many different levels. How do you can have traffic signs and those kind of things? But the computer's doing everything, and they're talking to other computers. Then yeah, all that becomes possible.
Yeah, so one day, maybe not in my lifetime.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of driverless cars. Boy, I'm hoping I don't have to buy another car. If I do, my next car is the last car I ever buy, and after that, it's all. I put it on my phone. I need a car in 10 minutes. I'm going here, and I don't even think about it. I got my own chauffeur. That just takes me where I want, drops me off at the door. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Especially for blind and disabled people as well. And for old people, when you get in their 70s and 80s, we shouldn't be driving anyway. So yeah, it's gonna make us all much more mobile and think about the productivity of what you're doing while you're instead of driving, you're going to be hopefully not on Facebook, but hopefully creating something of value.
Let me start you down these life questions, and then we good.
All right.
So first one is, what's one thing that you believe that everybody thinks you're insane for believing?
Well, I'm a Christian existentialist, and I know a lot of professors, religions there, but reading, I read Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene.
Okay.
He's an atheist, and he wrote The Selfish Gene, and I've never found a book that made me more strongly in my faith than reading the book. I think he made the strongest argument for religious faith in that book. I've read Tolstoy's Confessions, which kind of makes a similar argument from Tolstoy. He was a kind of a universalist Christian, kind of the same kind of argument. But yes, but I am. I've read atheist existentialists like Nietzsche, and it means nothing to me because I can't get any purpose out of what he's talking about. So I have to have purpose. Life has to have meaning, has to have purpose. And as I read Dawkins and I read his view of it, he makes everything so meaningless that not only are we're not just the evolved creatures, but we're evolved creatures not for us. We're evolved creatures just so our genes can keep going. We're all slaves to these genes and DNA, and the whole goal is not for us. All the things we value in life, like romance, friendship, family, those are all tricks of our DNA just so our genes will survive. That's what his book says. I'm going, man, what a useless, worthless life. Just to be a slave to and then his answer to all that is we should double down and become the best slaves to our genes as we can.
That
and I'm
sucks.
thinking, man, that's a horrible life. But when you read that, you come down with the answer that how little scientists actually know. And whatever the answer is, it's well beyond our comprehension. And say, well, if the answer is well beyond our comprehension, then my religious faith is no more radically stupid or we know whatever the answer is beyond our comprehension. I believe it's beyond our comprehensions, and we have a purpose, and there's a purpose beyond our existence here in this life. So I don't push it on other people because I prefer to have people share what they think. I don't prophesize, but I believe it fervently that we do have a purpose for being here, and that we have a creator, and it's beyond us. But I it's interesting. I'm an existentialist. I feel nothing but hopelessness with atheistic existentialists. So
What does that mean again? Existentialist?
That is probably the most famous Christian existentialist is Kierkegaard. I can pronounce his name. I can't really read his stuff because he's way over my head. But it's this idea of life is critical and important because we exist. The most famous one is I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
So the fact that we exist and we're here, we're breathing, we have one shot at this life. Boy, that makes it really critically important. There's not going to be another Abraham ever again. Your life is the only one that's going to be lived. You're the only one that gets to live it. Today, when you woke up this morning, you're the only one gets this day today for Abraham. You better make the best of it. Its existence is so critically important, you know. And Nietzsche was the atheistic one. And he was kind of like the philosopher king and all this. I just can't get into, because, you know, once you die, all that's meaningless then. But I do think, you know, there's a purpose. So how should we live? What is that purpose? And that's Kierkegaard. He's the one that came up with the phrase leap of faith. You believe it, commit, go with it. And put everything you have into it. You may find out at the end that it was all of naught, and that'd be pretty disappointing. But, you know, don't halfway. What do you believe, and go for it. You know, sell out to it. So, you know, I've sold out to my college students. I've sold out to my charity in Costa Rica, because I think life has a purpose, has a meaning. I want my students to have the greatest life possible. So I'm investing in that. If it was all meaningless and purposeless, then, you know, I couldn't get up every morning and go for it. So I think that's not real popular today, you know, that we got to be these intellectuals. And but anyway, that's probably my most controversial view.
All right, who do you love in this life?
Well, college students are my kids, so they're my passion. I'm a very autonomous person. I'm not a relationship person, so I like being left alone most of the time. So when people ask me, you know, do you have kids? I say, yeah, about 1,000 of them. So, you know, I can live somewhat vicariously through them. I want them to be really successful, and I see, and a lot of them forget about me once they graduate. But still, if there's something I say or something I can do that kind of get them thinking, like, yeah, what am I doing here? What's the purpose of this degree? All this, that's a pretty powerful. And I've been teaching for 20 years, and hopefully for another 15 or so. A few thousand students over a time, maybe 2% of them, maybe I impacted. Well, that's still, you know, a few hundred.
A lot of people.
That's a lot of people. So, you know, 10,000 students, 2%. Well, that's only 200, but yeah, it's still a few
lot
hundred,
of people.
Yeah, and some of them are going to do some really, really great things. I got some students that just, not because of me, but just their own drive. But maybe I said something that, you know, kicked them one place or the other. So that's pretty exciting.
What's the 3 things you're thankful for in this life?
Well, my health. I can't do anything without my health, which is, you know, part of the existentialist is if you're out of shape and can't do much. I love music. I love teaching. I love my college students. So those are the things, yeah. Those drive me pretty much.
I was asked this one. Sometimes I feel like I get different answers here with this one, but like, what's one person you want to forgive in this life, and vice versa? What's one person you want them to forgive you? And if you can say why.
I don't know. That I would forgive.
Yeah. Or some people want to talk to them. Sometimes they're like, yeah, they're already there. They already did their stuff. So sometimes they don't even have no.
I don't hold grudges. If there's people that I don't get along with, just personality wise, so I just ignore them. I've had students that cheated on exams, and I just can't get over it. I can't ever accept that they're gonna get over it, that they're gonna improve, turn, you know. So I don't have the redemptive, graceful spirit there that I should. But it makes me so boiling mad. So I probably should find some way to say maybe they just had they were just going through something bad or something. But once a student cheats once, I completely strike them off and it's not that I'm mad or hate them or anything. It's just like, I just completely, they're dead to me. You know, I just want nothing to do with them. I'm not boiling mad about them. It's just like, they're off my list, so I don't think about it anymore. People that forgive me, you know, I get real frustrated when things aren't logical. So I can remember times at USA just getting really mad at people because it wasn't logical and just losing my cool. And so some of those, I wish I could go back and undo them. Most of them, they probably don't remember me though. So it's probably not a matter of me forgiving them or they're forgiving me. They probably don't even remember.
I remember in your classes, I felt like the class before, or at least a week before sometimes, you would almost give out the test, you know, or essentially like the formula of the test, maybe like the outline of the test, and like.
Yeah, most of my cheating today is plagiarizing, and it's plagiarizing. I had one student make me so mad. He plagiarized all 5 of his papers for my class.
Damn.
And he spent a lot of my time helping him with the paper that he didn't write, that another student had written. And it got to the point where it's so obvious he hadn't written the papers, I just let him hang himself. But that he would have someone else's student's paper that he didn't write and have come to me for hours over and over again and spent hours of my time helping him on a paper he didn't write. That made me so mad. I couldn't see straight when that student came up. So I was like, and I see him on campus some still, and it's like, I don't want
That's so weird.
I don't want to
It's
talk
like
to you at all.
The purpose of cheating is so you don't have to spend time with it. And he's like spending time.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm copying a paper that I made a B and I need to make an A in the class. So, what can I do? And it's like, and that's why I figured out he was cheating, because I'm looking like, where did you get this number? That's the place where it was obvious cheating. Where did you get this number? And I discovered it was a number from last semester. And I was thinking, this student is so weak in finance. I don't think he would know how to find that number, because the most obvious number to find is the one that's on Yahoo Finance today. And he didn't find that number. He found an O number. And that's when I finally kind of light bulb was like, he didn't write any of these papers. This is a number from last semester's paper. And sure enough. So yeah, he was, if he had just turned it in and not come talk to me, I might not have ever discovered that he was cheating on it. So part of that bothers me is that, there may be a lot of people cheating on me and I just can't figure it out. But yeah, if a student cheats on me, man, it's like they're dead to me the rest of their life. So I probably need to have more grace there. It's just very difficult for me.
Where you see yourself in 3 years?
Well, pretty much doing the same kind of thing, just radically changing how I teach. I do think we need to radically change universities. And I've been trying it, but it's really tough. College professors are so autonomous. It's just I think we need to disrupt what we're doing here. So I'm hoping I'm involved in something of that nature. So yeah, I'd like to be involved in a whole new way of doing university teaching. Throw out everything we know and start over from scratch and figure out what actually makes sense given what's going on in the world today. Yeah, no more textbooks, no more exams, no more lectures. The lectures are podcasts and blogs and classes, hands-on projects.
Would we ever meet you then, or?
Huh?
Do we ever meet you then if there's no lectures?
Well, I like that. It's classes. It's kind of the flipped classroom in public schools where they're not watching my lecture. They're watching much better professors than I am. They're watching Dr. Lowe and Damadera, and they're watching lectures from the best professors in the world. And then they come to my class and it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And it's a project. What would you do with this information? All right, here's Disney. You just heard a lecture on this. If you're a CEO of Disney, what would you do? All right, let's bring the numbers in. What does this mean? What strategy would you have? What would you focus in on? What's the financial number that needs the most work on? What subsidiaries would you shut down? Where would you move in a new area? It would be let's do the application. No more exams. No more short-term memorization. It might be papers. They may write a paper, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is going to be. But I just don't think what we're doing today. And I don't think we're moving to the right model either, because the model moving to now is the online classroom, which is essentially the same as the classroom, just people watching on the screen. So then there is no interaction. I think that's even worse. I think we need to be talking to each other a lot more, and we're moving away from that entirely. So, yeah.
There's a company, I don't know the company's name, but I see ads for them probably every month. It started last year, but I think all the classes start this year. It's the master class, and it's like with all these famous people. So like for composers, they got Hans Zimmer. For trance, they got Armin van Buuren.
I've seen
I saw one yesterday for Stephen Curry, and I guess he'll have one on basketball, obviously.
Yeah, I saw one with Ron Howard on directing. And
yeah. So maybe something like when you were talking about watching lectures for the best, like that came to mind, and I almost thought like, well, maybe the professors would be almost like the hands-on guide. So like maybe everybody watches that, and obviously Steph Curry's busy, but but you're here, so like, or whatever. Every famous person is busy, so like here's the info, and like, but they got a question. Maybe you would be more like their guide to that.
Yeah, I even thought. Yeah, I was talking about it on the graduate level that I video all my lectures, and then the first hour of class is a class discussion on what terms are used. Do we understand everything? Let's make sure everybody's on the same page. And the next 3 hours of the class, these are long classes, is the project. Let's sit down and do a project. We're going to do a real life financial case, not a case from a Harvard Business School, but an actual real life company. It could be your company. Let's pick your company, and let's apply what we just learned to your company. And the grade is how good of a job you do applying to that. Was it actually useful what you did? So I could see that approach. I like the lecture side with questions. I do like that. So I don't like lecturing to an empty room. So, and I do think with the videoing of lectures that they start getting stale. So you have to have something where you don't just, I got these 20 hours, 50 hours of lectures, just keep reusing them. I've got 100 and something YouTubes, and I need to go through and just start deleting some of the old ones and redoing them. But yeah, I could see that. I think at UTSA, the problem is any type of video production it's not well supported, and you got to do it yourself. And if you forget to hit a button or whatever, I've had some where I forget to turn the mic on, I forget to hit the pause button. So my entire break, I'm talking to a student, and that whole thing is on the video. And without real support. And I seen Damodaran at New York Stern, and he videos his classes, and boy, they're quite exceptional. And I don't know, I think he has a full-time person that's a production person that comes in and helps him do that. That I think we're gonna have to move to more. Like if we're gonna do these videos, they got to be higher quality than what we're doing.
One of my favorite marketers, he's pretty much put out this philosophy of that no matter what it is you do, first you're like a media company, and then second you are whatever that thing is.
Our software company, media or something. Yeah.
Because you need the high quality video or something. He's kind of pioneered the idea of, like you said, a full-time person following him to do all these daily videos and stuff. And now he used himself as a beta test, and now like his company, since it's a marketing firm, they sell that service.
Yeah. Well, I wish I showed them where I work here, Damodaran. So you have Damodaran, you can have a pick him, or you can have his slides, or you can have both. You can flip back and forth. You get questions, and you can hear the questions. It repeats them. And he's in a big classroom, a few hundred students. So, it's really good. He has a lecture videoed because students miss the class.
Yeah.
But I do a YouTube of any math question I have in my classes. I don't think I did that one year.
No.
Here, but any math I have, because, if I do a math exercise in class and the exam's 4 weeks away or 5 weeks away, it's kind of a waste doing it right then. But to have a video of it, and they can go back and actually watch the whole thing. So those kind of things. So what that does is, instead of doing 5 examples in class, I do 1 or 2 in class, and then they got several examples on YouTube. I think that works a whole lot better. So it's moving more and more that just going over stuff that's kind of just rote memory kind of stuff, and move that outside of class and let the class be discussions, projects, hands-on, paper, working on your papers in class, or helping with organizing, all that kind of stuff. I think that could work. But universities aren't moving in that direction, so we're going to have, employers are going to have to say, we demand that before it's going to happen, because schools are producing what employers say they want right now, which is college graduates. Not knowledgeable people, but just college graduates. They got a degree, and that's all employers say they want. They want someone that can go through the ropes of all those mazes of a college student. If they can do that, they're probably going to be a pretty good worker. We don't care if they learn anything, but they rather get through that whole maze of stuff. They must be a pretty self-disciplined person.
I guess. Yeah,
well, you hope so.
I mean, like, only like a lot of the world has done it, so I mean, it can't be.
Well, and it's the old school too, right? You want workers that are going to follow the rules and stay inside the lines. And so that's why I think employers are there thinking, you know what? That old school college student, that's not what we want. We want them to come in here and actually draw outside the lines. We want them to actually be challenging everything we're saying. So I think employers are going to start questioning whether or not the college model is really working for them.
I hope so. What is the perfect day?
Well, for me, if I could relive, see, that'd be eternity, paradise, eternity. You could relive the perfect day over and over and over again without memory of it.
Oh man, Groundhog's Day.
He had Groundhogs without memory.
Yeah.
But,
that sounds almost horrible though. Like just.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not the same day, maybe the same year, but yeah, I mean that would be. Well, as people say, eternity would be so boring, but boring is related to time. And eternity is after time is over, so there is no time.
Well, I only thought it was bad because just without the memory, because now it's just a loop. But
yeah, without the memory, it's. Well, I'm not saying without any memory. I wouldn't want all my memories, but just not the memory of that particular,
of that day. Yeah,
that day, and just what's the most greatest day, but. To me, it's always, there's certain topics I love to teach. My risk management class I love. There's certain risk management classes, but boy, if I could teach that class just over and over again with different students and seeing their reactions and getting, so that's my favorite. There's certain topics that just like, I'm just bouncing off the walls. If students look bored I even tell them at the beginning of class, you better pretend like you're interested because this topic is really, really important to me. Because I just find them so fascinating, and I think they're provocative. So students are like, wait, what? And, kind of stuff. So that to me is a good day. If I have any type of lecture like that, those are fun.
I think for me, like one that came to mind, and I probably don't even remember it anymore, but I think the Black Swan concept.
Yeah,
I think like when you were first explaining that to me.
Yeah. Well, another perfect day for me would be music as well. So if I could go from a risk management class, I haven't had much opportunities to play Mahler, but to play Mahler would be pretty cool. I'm going to try to create that perfect day. I think once a year, I'm going to get a bunch of really great brass players together, and we're just going to do some really great music. I'll just hire them all, spend a few $1,000, get a bunch of brass players, and we'll just do some really great music just for that one day. So that's kind of advantage of being retired and having money. I can create those perfect days, every once in a while. Music would be one of them. And nice thing with the teaching, I don't have to spend much money on that. I just show up and teach my favorite classes. I've had students say, you only teach the stuff that you think's important. I was like, yeah, that's right. I guess I could teach a class I have one semester, I'm going to teach all the unimportant stuff this semester. But yeah, I'm passionate about this stuff. So it's fun to get up and teach it. Grading's kind of the downside, even though I love reading my students' papers, it's just the volume of it.
Yeah.
60 papers just gets old, but actually sit up and lecturing on stuff I love talking about. That's a perfect day.
Where does the will to carry on come from? Does it come from within, higher power, faith?
Yeah, for me it's faith.
Yeah.
So if I were a Nietzscheite, I would just say I'd be done with it. I'll just be a very hedonistic life and just But I think there's a purpose outside of this life. So my religious faith is extremely important reading. So that gives me purpose. If I didn't have that, when I read Richard Dawkins, and I've listened to him, he kind of like, I'd love to talk to him and see what purpose he has, because I just can't see it. Because you read The Selfish Gene, it's like, man, we're a pretty sad bunch of animals here, complete slaves to our DNA. I can't get a purpose out of that. I can't have purpose of teaching here if all I'm doing is giving people 50 years so they can pay their bills, and then they're going to die, and it's everything they've accomplished in life, it becomes meaningless. So, and to me, purpose and meaning is in service. You serve others and you involve in other people's lives. I got some of that from my mom. My mom just turning 80 is just so involved in so many lives. She's just constantly. And if Dawkins is right, then boy, she's left a pathetic, useless life. There's just no reason for all of that. But I think there's a purpose for what she's doing.
All right, and this is the last one, but it's a 3-parter. It's called I Like, I Wish, I Wonder. So I like that I did. I wish I had done. I wonder what would have happened if.
Well, I like the career I picked, even though I was just purely blessed that I walked into the right one. It fit really well with my constitution and my mental. It was the right company, the right industry, the right people. So, I was very blessed with that. What was the second one?
I wish I had done.
Well, if I'd had more confidence. So when I graduated college, I was scared to death. I had no self-confidence whatsoever. I wish I had stepped out and, done some startup or something like that. But yeah, it was impossible. There was no way it could have happened. I just had no courage. But I was walking out of college in 86, 87. It's 86. That was a pretty exciting time to be coming. It's just at the start of the PC revolution, and then the internet starting off. So, if I'd run into a Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, says, hey, yeah, I'll be your CFO for, you can pay me 1/10, just give me 2% in your business and just to be involved in something like that. Not because of the money, but because of how it's changed the world,
Yeah, okay.
Involved in something like that. That would have been pretty exciting.
I wonder what would have happened if.
I don't have big regrets. So, yeah. I wonder if, there's another job. There was 2 jobs I got when I was in college. The other one would have been a disaster. I wonder how bad my life would have been taking that other job. Oh, it would have been a horrible job. And I was almost regretting not taking it, because it could have left me living in Austin, which is where my family and friends were. And instead I took a job that took me here. Yeah, I think USA was the perfect job for me, given my lack of confidence. The other job was even better for my lack of confidence, but it would have gone nowhere. And either I'd been in a rat race, dead-end job my whole life, or I would have somehow gotten out. But that's not my personality, man. Once I get into something, boy,
Dive deep.
I dived deep into it, and that would have been the best, whatever that thing would have been. But, so I was very, very fortunate. So I wonder about that one with a shiver, because it would have been a bad decision.
This is a part where, like, usually when I have an artist or someone famous, the plugs. I don't know if you have anything to plug, if you want to plug the charity or anything.
If anybody wants to give to my charity, I'm really horrible at raising money. I've tried on Facebook, and people just don't donate. It's a great charity. It's helps very, very poor people in Costa Rica who are very confident. So I like helping people who are self-starters, hard workers. So it's not a handout. I really believe, when it comes to charity, it's got to come from empathy, not sympathy. When it comes from sympathy, it becomes this arrogant kind of thing. When it comes from empathy, which is why I would love working with college students. I can remember college really, really well. I can identify with them. And now with these farmers in Costa Rica, going down there, working with them, spending a day with them, boy, I can really empathize. These are hardworking people. So yeah, I think it's a great charity, and it has no expenses. So if someone gives $1,000, if the PayPal fee's $20, we reimburse that $20, so the full $1,000 goes down. So there's zero expenses. It's probably one of the few charities that has a zero expense. And it's radically changing this one little area. There's another thing I like is it's a small area, maybe 40,000 people in this whole area. So that $100,000, $200,000 can actually do quite a bit, especially as poor as they are. So yeah, it's kind of my passion of being able to.
Well, you made that charity, right? Or
yeah, it's been around since 2009.
What made you do that?
Well, I wanted to find a place I could go to over and over again, but I didn't think I had any skills, because usually in third world countries, it's medical or construction, and I can't do either one of those. And in 2008, I started talking to them. It's like, I'm retiring next year. I'm going to be giving a lot of money to this charity. Could we do micro lending? The one thing I could actually do, finance. And I was giving money mainly for tax reasons. So I've been donating money to them. I was going to give them several years all at once to get a tax deduction, because my income was really high in 2009. And that's what I thought, well, it's your money. I'm just giving you many, many years in advance, but you can't get access to it except for, I'll give it to you monthly. Why don't we take all that money that's sitting at charity and we start loaning it out? If it does get paid back, I guarantee the charity I would make up for any losses on the loans. If it does pay back, then you just got your money. It's your money anyway. And that got us around all kind of regulatory issues, because essentially he's loaning his own money out. So there's no bank. It's just a personal loan. And I thought it was going to take us years to get this set up. It took us 1 month. The month after we talked about doing microlending, we had our first borrower. And he paid us back. He hasn't borrowed from us since, but we've had some that have borrowed from us. And it's going down the stories they're telling. The last time, this one farmer, he had a horrible year one year. He lost his son to a tragic drowning. He lost his brother. His sister was sick. He lost his entire coffee crop to this fungus. And he was like, oh, Ron, I don't know if I can pay you back. He was really worried we're going to kick him out of the program. And I told him, no, we'll give you more time. That's all right. And he turned it all around. He started growing sugarcane, and now he's doing great. And last time I went, he was like, I got to show you my house. Got to show me my house, because he redid his entire house, put a new floor down. He's so proud of his house, so proud of his farm. And now he wants to buy a truck. And, that's what I like. You're giving money to someone, and it's not a handout. I mean, they're paying us back, and we're charging them really low interest rates, like 6% a year, really, really low interest rates. They can't get that. And, banks are charging them 8% a month. So it's really low rates. And they're so passionate about the program that they're actually scared to death that if they're late 1 week, we're going to kick them out of the program. And it gives me a chance to kind of get involved in their lives, and they're wonderful people. I fall in love with them. They love it when I come down. I used to be worried I was going to be bothering them, because they're hardworking farmers, and they're like, no, we want to show you what we're doing. Come look at our farm. So it's good. It's close enough that it's not hard to travel to. I'm learning Spanish as well as I can, be able to talk to them. That's better to me. I used to do trips where you go and you spend, 5 days and you never go back. I don't like that. I like going back and I hear my name. People, when we play soccer, I hear them talking trash to me in Spanish. I like that. It's community, and I feel like I'm part of that community. And it's not me coming to help them. I'm not like this handout, this rich American coming to them. No, I'm a partner with them, and we're both invested in this community. And they're like, Ron, what are we going to do next? The last time I was there, the restaurant lady, we started a restaurant there, and the 4 restaurant ladies, they come over, Ron. and they're talking about their dream and what they want to do at the restaurant. I thought, man, that's really cool. And they're like, we got to get the money. Can you get more Americans give money so we can build? We want to build this thing over here, and it really work. We know we can get some business, and it will pay for itself. And that to me is pretty exciting, because there's no way they could have started a restaurant on their own. We gave them $75,000 seed capital. That's a fortune in Costa Rica. It's just an impossible amount of money. But now it's there, it's up and running. They're so proud of that, and they have I love it that they have dreams about where they want to go next. That's been pretty amazing.
What's the, I guess, site or any of the info to get to this charity?
Our website is icdi-cr.org. CR for Costa Rica. ICDI is Indigenous Community, because there is an Indigenous community there. Indigenous Community Development International. Even though we're only Costa Rica, we say international just in case we expand it out. And in -cr.org. So our website, we're getting it upgraded right now. But it works. It has donations there. But yeah,
Is that the only thing it's on? Just the website? Is it on any of the other things, the socials or whatever?
We have a Facebook page, and those videos, my college students, I'm taking a group of college students there on Friday, and they're going to be at the restaurant and, doing community projects. We're doing a 2-year celebration anniversary for the restaurant. We're going to throw a big carnival for the community. But last trip, we took one of our students, really good for production, so he created those 3 kind of commercials. So I've been trying to use those, but you can't get people to donate. It's just because I'm scared to ask people for money. I'm not a real... and that's not my thing. So, but it is, for people who need a charity, there's so many charities that, 20-30% of their money is going into marketing and CEO pay, and we don't have any of that. It's all, everything we get goes into that community. Even the restaurant, if it makes money, it goes back to the women. And if ICDI, we have 50%, our 50%, if we make money, that has to go back into community, and the 4 ladies vote on how it goes back into community. So, everything we do goes. Any of our micro loans, if we get paid back, it goes back into other micro loans. So everything goes back into community. So yeah, it's a fun project to be in. They call me Ron Dulce there. Sweet Ron. They think I have a funny name.
It's a street name now. That's what we're going to call you. That would be what I put on the title of this. Not Ron Sweet, Ron Dulce.
Yeah. Well, they can't say my name because it doesn't sound like a name. Ron. Like the alcohol. Come on, alcohol. Yeah, it's just...
Oh, man. Any other plugs? That's it? The charity, that's it?
No, just UTSA is the greatest finance students in the world. So hire our students, man. They're really good students. And if you're looking for someone to hire, call me, and I won't send you a bad student. I'll send you our best. You can be sure. I interview them every semester, every class. I know what they're doing. I can tell. I know more about them than anybody interviewing them for a job in an hour. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good resource. Just call me up, and I'll only send you good names.
All right. Is that the last words?
Yep.
All right. Make that chicken, smoke that turkey. Boosh. We done.
Woke up today, same day every day. Nothing changes, no life rearrangement. Am I shameless? My name nameless. I choose to be painless, the path that's painless. Easier choice to do, though I have no clue. My life what to do, and be the chosen few. Greener on the other side, when will the tide be on my side? Surfing the life ride. What I do when I go to sleep every night, we surfing the life ride. What I do when I wake up first sight, we surfing the life ride. What I do when I battle every single day, we surfing the life ride. What I do when the North Shore Hawaii, we surfing the life ride. Now my flow is flowing, life is ever knowing, I'm forever growing. Obstacles are slowing me from being me. My mind can see potential in me, failing publicly, still not trying. Closer to dying, my dreams flying. There's no denying what I wanna do. Act as if no clue what I wanna do. Rally to a crew, easier to do than put in work. Effort test to hurt, business stay flirt with my motivation. Stop procrastination, head to destination. No more vacations, not until the end. And with you, my friends, but there is no end. Always in a van, always on to do. Podcast do, grow does the queue, nothing rather do. What I do when I go to sleep every night, we surfing the life ride. What I do when I wake up first sight, we surfing the life ride. What I do when gonna try like I'ma die, no matter the why. I always aim high, the goal to fly away from here. No more fear, talking about leaving. Now you'll be seeing me going out, power of my mouth, make reality, no salary, freedom of my life, creation is my wife, gonna be a high, can't spark the light, care for myself, first fix my health, then aim for wealth, set free myself, transform within life, I win, all of my kin believe they come in. What I do when I go to sleep every night, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when I wake up first sight, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when I battle every single day, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when the North so Hawaii, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when I go to sleep every night, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when I wake up first sight, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when I battle every single day, when you surfing the life ride. What I do when the North so Hawaii, when you surfing the life ride. Where am I going from here? Where am I going from here? What am I gonna do next? Am I gonna be the best? Where am I going from here? Where am I going from here? What am I gonna do next? Am I gonna be the best? Where am I going from here? Where am I going from here?